Hi, small group leaders. This is for third, fourth, and fifth graders on August 9th in our series called Like Jesus. In our lessons right now, you will notice that we are taking a journey through Jesus's ministry life. And before we get into that, I want to give you an idea of what to expect as you walk into your group today. First off, you're going to be in a big room. And this is for one reason only, because during this phase 3 time of transmission in our communities, we need to make sure that we are allowing for more social distance. And I know these giant spaces are really hard for us to have small groups, which is why we are encouraging you to have all the third, fourth, and fifth graders all together. Not ideal, not ideal at all, but we're doing our best just so that kids know that we love them and so families feel cared for. And so we're going to keep everybody together as much as we can. If there's enough leaders in the room and you guys want to split to different corners, you are always welcome to do that. If you do that, you may need to talk to each other because there's only one way to transmit the large group lesson today, which is the other thing I wanted to let you know. Your large group lesson is all recorded. Everything that we would typically do up front is on the computers that will play on the big screen that's in your room. And so there will be a tech person, or you can grab one of the fourth or fifth graders and ask them to be the tech person to run that. While you do that, there's worship songs there if you want to do that. I also know that it's a little awkward just to have a small group of kids singing together, so totally up to you. I'm not telling you you don't have to. I'm also not telling you that you have to. Okay, so that's totally up to you. You are in charge of how your small group functions and how you do things today. I also want you to know that in your room, there's a few extra activities to help fill the time that you have with your kiddos. We have the air hockey table in there for the bigger ones, and we also have a beanbag toss, washer toss. It was built for washers, but washers are hard to keep up with, and they actually hurt when they're tossed. And so we're going to try it with bean bags for this age group for a little while. So that's to fill time. Please encourage kids that during the time that you need to be doing small group, that they need to come sit with you, and that you will reward them by giving them time to play afterwards. But that's for time for you. Also, today is Move Up Sunday, and so kids will be moving up into their new grade. So make sure that you appropriately acknowledge which grade all of the kids are going to start their school year in this next week. And maybe you want to talk about the start of school and talk to them about what is going on in their lives and what they're looking forward to or what they're not looking forward to. Many of them will be starting school online to begin with, and that's going to be a little challenging for a few of them. Your social activity, you have some chit chat cards, and those are a great way to have kids come in, begin to spend time with you, because fun over time helps you build a relationship that gives you the opportunity to share big truths. I know there are no God questions in that pile, and that is intentional because we feel like one of the ways that that we can break down barriers so that we can share big things with kids is for them to feel comfortable in that environment. And many of our kids are not coming in with an understanding of the Bible or knowing anything about it or have anybody at home or anywhere else who's helping them learn those things. And so we want to break down those barriers by sharing things that we can have in common. And so these activities, your social activities especially, is to help you build that relationship. Now, our lesson today, as I said, Jesus is back in his hometown of Nazareth. The people in Nazareth have heard that Jesus was in Capernaum teaching and healing people. And so as he shows up in his hometown, they have a couple reactions. First off, their first reaction is they want to know why this dude who is Joseph's son is teaching all of a sudden, because isn't Joseph's son a carpenter just like Joseph? And if Jesus was doing what he was raised to do in his household, yes, he would be a carpenter, but he was raised as God's son, God, fully human, fully God. And so he has all of the authority to teach and to speak about all of the things that the scriptures say, because he was there in the very beginning of time and knew all of this with God in the very beginning of time. This might be mind-blowing for some of your kids. Like, they hadn't really thought that Jesus is God as much as he is man. Like, we don't have an issue usually acknowledging that Jesus is man, but because we know we are man, we have a hard time understanding how our manness can be godly at the exact same time. And so spend a little time talking about that with your kids. And what we want them to see in the end of all of this, of all that we learned from Jesus's lessons today, is when he begins to speak and he tells the people that the Messiah that they are looking for is standing there in front of them, they get upset and they don't want him calling himself God, because they knew where he came from. And he doesn't look like what they were expecting. And so they were not happy about this. And their tradition is that they would plot to kill him because they're trying to keep this false teaching, as they would have called it, out of their community. And so again, what we want kids to see in all of this is that Jesus was not like any other teacher. He's not like their school teacher. He's not like their PE teacher. He's not like you as their teacher at church. He's not like their coach on the ball field, or their dance teacher, or their karate teacher, or any other place that they have a teacher in their lives. Jesus was not that teacher. Jesus did want to help people. He wanted them to learn. He wanted them to do better, but he was different. He wanted people to be new and different, and the only way that that is accomplished is by believing that he was the Messiah, and God. He was God and man at the exact same time, and he was the one God sent to rescue us. So you get an awesome opportunity today to share the gospel with a group of kids and to talk about that and what that means in your small group today. In fact, your small group activity may be a good launching point for that. And I encourage you, do this activity before you do your discussion questions, because it's a way that you can get the kids engaged in what you're talking about, and you can talk about it in a different way, because you can point out, when you did that activity, you said this. What does that mean in light of this question that we're talking about right now? So use all the experiences that you have during your small group today. And so your small group activity is you're going to use a piece of masking tape if you'd like to, or you can also use the transition piece in the rooms that between the tile and the carpet as a way to mark a line. And on one end of the line, you want to mark as good, and the other end you want to mark as bad. And what you're going to do is give kids different categories of things and they're going to step on the line where they think they are in measuring how good they are at something or how bad they are at something. So it can be dance, it could be baseball, it could be eating spaghetti, it could be eating their vegetables, it could be writing in cursive, it could be spelling words. Anything that you think a kid this age can do, name off a bunch of things so that every kid has a chance to be on the line at some point. And hopefully many of them will choose some things I'm good at and some things I'm not so good at. So maybe, encourage them to move themselves up and down the line depending upon what it is you're talking about. What I would do is ask them, after you've said one thing, to step away from the line so they can step back in onto the line with the next category. But what you want to do at the very end is to ask them this question. Ask kids to stand on the line for where they think they need to be for Jesus to rescue them. Now, you and I know that it doesn't matter where we are on that line. Jesus came to rescue every single person. You don't have to have it all together before God will rescue you. and be very, very good, you also are not so bad that Jesus didn't come to rescue you. There are so many kids and so many adults who believe that they are too far gone, that Jesus doesn't want to have anything to do with them. And that is so not true. That is not the Jesus that we teach at Parkway Church. And that is not the Jesus I read about in my Bible. Jesus desires for every single person to have the opportunity to believe in him. And so this should be one of those launching points in your discussion that you can begin to tell them that. And then I would take them, each kid, one by one, call them by name and say, Sammy, God came to rescue you, and it doesn't matter where you stand on that line. He sent Jesus as your Savior. And go down the line and say that to every single kid. They may not have ever in their entire lives heard one person call them by name and tell them that Jesus came to rescue them. And if that sparks a discussion that they want to talk to their parents about whether they believe or they don't believe, I encourage them to have that conversation with their family. If they need us to be a part of it or you to be a part of it, of course we'll be welcome to, but I want for families to feel like they were a part of that discussion with their loved one as well. Then your memory verse activity, you have the John 3:16 is our memory verse, and you have like a Mad Libs kind of thing set up. What you're going to do is have the kids say the memory verse a few times. And then when they're done saying the memory verse, then ask them to help you fill in the blank with something that they think might be really silly. And then you can read what it says once they've filled in the silly blanks. And then ask them to tell you what the correct word is to replace that word. These little cues should help them memorize the memory verse. Using these little clues helps all of us learn to memorize. Some of us do it backwards, and this would be a backwards way of memorizing. But whatever it takes for kids to memorize. And what I would love at the end of this series is for all of us to get together and to say this memory verse as a way to share that with our families, that this is what we know and this is what we are proclaiming as All-Star Kids at Parkway Church. Then you have some coloring pages that you can share with your kids. You have your activities around the room if you'd like to share that with them. You could go outside if it's not raining. We've had a crazy rain lately, so totally up to you. I just ask for you to be back in your spot before parents come in so that we don't have a lot of parents crossing paths, so that we're continuing to keep everybody safe. One last thing, to keep everyone safe, you can wear your face mask as long as you are comfortable wearing a face mask. I do ask for you at check-in and pick up for you to be wearing a face mask, but the rest of the time, that's totally up to you. I will be wearing a face mask the entire time just to set the example for everyone. And so everyone knows that we are in phase 3 and we are taking every precaution possible to protect ourselves and everyone that we're with. Also, if you, a coworker, a family member that lives in your house is being tested for COVID, has been tested recently for COVID, like in the last week or two, or you're in your 14-day window, if you suspect that maybe you have come in close contact, please let me know as soon as you know. I want to take care of you, because if you're in quarantine, 2 weeks can feel like a very long time. And then I also want to make sure that we are setting up a timeline for when we expect that you could return back to us, because we want to make sure that you're safe, and I know that you desire to keep everybody else safe. Thank you so much for leading. I look so forward to seeing you guys again. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.